Anbernic have just teased their latest console, the RG505. But the RG505 has a huge problem it needs to face. A couple of years ago, Anbernic were one of the favourite players in the world of retro gaming handhelds. But in 2022, perception has changed a little bit amongst the community of Anbernic and their devices. The problem is that in the last 12 months, Anbernic have released a rush of devices to the market, with no particular device shining out in any particular area, leaving all of these devices just kind of floating around the market, with consumers not really knowing what the point of them is. A couple of years ago, Anbernic had a very specific and clear model. The small retro gaming handheld devices like the RG350 and the RG351s were very specific in what they were targeting and providing to consumers. Whereas since then we've had the RG552, we've had the RG353, the RG503 and the Win600. All devices which seem to tick off different areas. And now we're hearing about yet another device, the RG505. What is this device? Where does it fit in? And what is its purpose? Now a lot of my fellow YouTubers seem to think that Anbernic is just grabbing for cash right now, trying to fleece consumers out of their hard-earned money by throwing as many devices, confusing the market and making people spend over the odds for devices that just don't really hit the mark. But honestly, I don't think it's as sinister as that. Back in the days of the RG351, there wasn't a huge amount of competition and the market was quite specific in what it was trying to target. In 2022, after the introduction of the Steam Deck and the AYN Odin, the market has completely changed, and I think Anbernic are left wondering where they need to target, scrambling, trying to make a device to catch up with what is available right now, when probably at this point in time they weren't planning on releasing these kinds of devices. The product timeline for Anbernic has probably been thrown out of sync, with all these amazing devices rushing to market, and devices like the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus and the AYN Odins just blowing consumers' minds. I even have it from first-hand interactions with Anbernic employees that they are slowing down giving out review copies of the devices simply for the fact that the past 3 devices have not sold anywhere near they expected to, and their sales are really struggling this year. Which means that the RG505 has a huge uphill battle, has a huge problem it needs to try and solve. It needs to try and bring back Anbernic to the limelight, to make them the developers that they once were, to bring to the community a device that is powerful enough and well priced to compete with what is out there already, to compete with the likes of the Retroid Pocket 3, which is already taking pre-orders. Now as of now we don't know a whole lot of details about the RG505 other than the fact that it's going to sport a 5-inch screen and it's going to look a lot more along the lines of the RG351 form factor, as opposed to some of the changes that they went for with the 503 and the Win600. Now over the past 12 months, Anbernic have gone for progressively more powerful CPUs in their devices. Being fans of the Rockchip, they went for the RK3326, which was in their RG351 models. They then took a step up to the RK3399, which was in their RG552 model, and then the latest RG353 sports the RK3566, which is the most powerful Rockchip CPU Anbernic have put in any of their devices, but it still fell behind the T310, which powers the Retroid Pocket 2 Plus. Which means for me there is only one option for the RG505. They need to go for the RK3588. Now this is obviously going to be a bit more expensive, but what the RK3588 provides is the ability to tap into DDR5 RAM. And if Anbernic are able to put in 4GB of DDR5 RAM, it will blow the Retroid Pocket 3 out of the water. Now this is definitely possible for the RG505, but with that increased power and those increased specs puts a risk factor on the price itself. Now the top end Retroid Pocket 3 is selling for $129, which means that if the RG505 can come in with those specs at $150, I think they will do amazing. Even if the RG505 has to push it up to the $200 mark, I think the community will be more understanding and will be more appreciative if Anbernic have pushed the device as far as they can to try to make it as powerful and as efficient as it can possibly be. Because you see, for me, this is the biggest problem that Anbernic have faced. It isn't the fact that the prices of the devices are getting higher. Prices of retro handhelds are creeping up anyway across all the market. The issue has been that with this increased price point, Anbernic haven't been able to deliver something that matches that price point. But with the RG505, Anbernic truly have one more chance, one more shot to bring to the consumers, to bring to the market the Anbernic device, the Anbernic design that we loved from the 351 series, the true successor to the 351 that we were meant to see in 2022. Now, if you want to find out more about the 505 and when it releases, then make sure you subscribe. But in the meantime, check out its closest competition, the Retroid Pocket 3.